Да ви кажам искрено, исклучително сум среќен за овој подкаст кој што ни го овозможува Радио МОВ. А да, пред се добар ден, заборавив да ви кажам добар ден и добре дојдовте. Но за овој подкаст сум исклучително среќен затоа што завлегува во теми, не за темите како такви, со оглед на тоа дека Радио МОВ е познат медиум кој работи на овие теми, но за гостинката со која што ќе разговараме на овие теми. И морам да признаам дека е една исклучителна реткост да се излезе надвор од се она што е представува распоред на една амбасадорска функција кај нас и да се зборува за исклучително важни општествени теми. И токму таква е и денешната на овој подкаст на Радио МОВ. Зборуваме за инклузивноста, зборуваме за вклучувањето и ангажирањето на маргинализираните групи со фокус на ЛГБТИ заедницата. Со нас овде во Радио МОВ на подкастот е амбасадорката на Соединетите држави кај нас, Анджела Прайс Агелер. Добре дојдовте.
Thank you. Добар ден на сите. Thank you so much, Ognan. You and I have been talking about having this conversation here in MOF, and I'm delighted to be here today.
Како сте?
Одлично.
Исклучително многу се радувам, затоа што темата е многу специфична повторно.
Yes.
Не беше така одреден период, но со порастот на антиродовите движења за кои што ќе зборуваме, for the anti-gender movement, работите некако се сменија можеби кон назад, they went a little bit backwards, но прво ме интересира нешто лично.
Okay.
Кога прв пат свативте во животот дека сакате да се вклучите во активизмот? Дали постоеше некој настан, некоја ситуација во вашиот живот која ве поттикна на активизам?
There was no point.
Okay.
There was nothing happened that I thought I have to be an activist. And I don't tend to think of myself as an activist, but activism, after all, is campaigning and working to bring about reforms and positive change. I was raised to believe that you speak up for what is right. And I have a mother and father who always taught me that. I also have 3 older brothers, so I'm pretty tough. And that helped me be unafraid to express when I saw something that I believed to be wrong. And that has stayed with me. I grew up overseas. My father was also a diplomat. And so one sees different kinds of behavior that we think is not correct. And not right, but it was always incredibly important in my family, as it is with my family now, with my husband and daughter, to speak up for those who perhaps cannot speak up for themselves, and to work to support the dignity of everybody in a society. Because, you know, what are we if we don't? This is sort of one of the fundamental truths that drives me every day.
Кога започнувавте во дипломатијата, која беше можеби првата тема што би можеле да ја гледаме како активизам од вашата дипломатска работа? Дали е тоа феминизмот, дали се тоа маргинализираните групи генерално,
Right.
дали е тоа ЛГБТИ, дали се тоа можеби лицата со попреченост и слично?
It's a great question, and frankly, it is when you talk about supporting human rights and the dignity and rights of all human beings, then all of those areas that you mentioned fall within that. And frankly, if you don't stand up for one group, then those who would deny them their rights will come after other groups as well. So I think I've told you before the story of a very dear friend of mine in the U.S. who's a very prominent LGBTQIA activist. And he and I were having a conversation about women's rights. And he said, well, that's not really my thing. I'm mostly focused on sort of the gay community. And what we discussed is if you ignore some of the gender issues, some of the attacks against the full value of women and gender equity within our communities, then you could be next. And in order for us to be champions of our issues, it's important that we recognize that there are many, many others who are also marginalized, who are also under attack simply for being themselves.
Како, да, ова ми се допаѓа, морам да признам, има една аналогија која што се прави, која вели човековите права не се кошница со јаболка од кои што вие избирате едно јаболко и за тоа ќе се грижам, а ги оставате другите.
Yep.
Како современата дипломатија, модерната дипломатија, според вас, може да го подобри, да речеме, статусот на ЛГБТ заедницата, инклузивноста воопшто, како Соединетите Американски држави придонесуваат во ова поле на меѓународната заедница?
Yeah. Well, actually, we have directives from the president, from the White House, from the Secretary of State. It is formally part of our mandate. As an embassy overseas, there's the president's memorandum on the human rights of LGBTQI individuals. We have numerous directives and laws about gender equity. And so those are parts of how we operate. They're part of our basic foundational policy. So when we engage in other countries, and believe me, in some countries it's much more challenging than in others.
I have a question on that as well, but okay.
This is part of what I have been tasked to do as an American ambassador, is to get out and support people. And we do it through, as you know, numerous programs through USAID. The First Family Initiative, for example, Star to Star, and there are so many others. And just by engaging, and frankly, one of the most important things we can do is what you and I are doing right now, which is talking about it. It was great talking to the team here before we began, that young people will have conversations about tough topics that often we see their parents unwilling to have. And so it shouldn't be a tough topic. In my view, but it is, there are those within the society that are made uncomfortable when you talk about people that are different, and that's why we should talk about it, because education is one of the fundamental ways to address marginalization and discrimination.
Тоа сакав и да ве прашам, ова ми беше како дополнително, like an addition of a question, но кои се најголемите предизвици со кои се соочувате како дипломатка, кога зборувате за ЛГБТИ правата и инклузивноста во земји со различни културолошки и обштествени норми? Which are the biggest challenges that you are facing as a diplomat in countries with different culture and norms?
Quite candidly, I think you know me well enough that I'm pretty direct, and there's not a lot of topics that I shy away from.
As the Macedonian audience also knows that, yes, we know.
And because I do think those conversations are so important. And by the way, let me say to every single person in this country, someone in your family is gay.
Of course.
You may never know it, you may never recognize it, you may not want to hear it. Someone in your expanded family is gay. And it's just true for all of us, and it's true for every country around the world. And it may make you uncomfortable, but it's the reality. So let's talk about that. And, when we talk about gender equity and how women are treated within a society, we need to talk about that. And because, these groups are part of our society, and successful societies require participation of everyone. So by leaving out a whole group of people, we are automatically hindering our ability to succeed as a community and as a society and as a nation.
Интересно е што го споменавте. Првите, едни од главните поддржувачи на борбата на активизмот на ЛГБТ